Awesome. Hey guys, I'm Tiffany and you found us on the Wise Skies channel. I've got Adrienne Cobb with us today. She wrote the Tribes of Light book. You can find her at mywildmagic.com. And this is the second part in a series that we were doing about the Tribes of Light. So Adrienne, welcome back. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much. Super happy to be here.
And I'm equally excited today to talk about the next three tribes of light. We're in the angelic tribe right now, and we're also going to go over the ascended masters and then the nature kingdom. So lots of fun stuff to talk about today. If you guys missed the first part, I'll just link it down below so that you can get the first part and go back over her general overview and a little bit more about the book. I'll put a link to buy her book in the description below too. But if you could get us started with the angelic tribe, can you just talk a little bit about some of their frequencies or how we can recognize them?
Yeah, so kind of catching us up, there's 7 different tribes of light. There's the cosmic avatars, galactic councils, and the planetary light beings, and the star tribes, which we covered in our first interview. And then there's also the angelic host. And so the angelic host are the first of the 5 that are the original sort of tribes of light. And, keeping in mind that we all maybe come from a universal source, but then as we become that individualized flame of light, we're going to be drawn to one of these other dimensional consciousnesses to start downloading and interacting and learning from that tribe of light, but it's always related to your own soul blueprint. So where you're drawn to, what you're attracted to is going to be based on what your unique expression is. And that divine blueprint, that expression of who we are, is eternal. So it's not just done in one lifetime, it's an eternal thing. And so with the angels, people who come from the angelic tribe of light, they tend to be more feeling oriented. They operate more from their heart space. You can usually, when you're around them, literally feel like a palpable type of love, unconditional love, divine love, loving energy that comes from them. Sometimes they can be a little bit softer, a little bit gentler, a little bit more easygoing in a sense. They don't usually like conflict. They're usually wanting everybody to be kind of happy and at peace and loving. And so angelic beings can be highly empathic to emotions, which the star beings are as well, but also to feelings, which go a little deeper. And so it's dealing directly with the heart chakra, and it's also looking at the energy of the connection to the soul. So when you're dealing with the flame of divine love, the angelic kingdom and all that, there can be this really strong sense of wanting to heal others, bring about positive vibration, help them communicate more on a soul level. So they don't necessarily want superficial conversation. They're wanting deeper communication. And then that person is actually in the sphere of communication, oftentimes on an intuitive level with the angelic kingdom. There's different types of angels, but these are going to probably be most of the time more archangelic energies, sometimes cherubim, things like that, seraphim, but it's usually the archangels. And then the star beings can also have kind of sometimes a crossover hybrid energy where they work with angelic, angelic star beings are like angels of light, whereas people who are truly coming from the angelic kingdom normally are more archangelic and bringing forth feeling tones like peace, joy, wellness to others.
And I want to ask you just about the different kind of realms, even within the angels. And so, a lot of us are familiar with the archangels, Michael, Jophiel, Shamuel, Zadkiel, the Ariel, right? But I guess there's more to it than that. There's not just the archangels, but there's several different tribes and several different, I wouldn't say realms, but maybe you categorize them differently. And I thought maybe you could give us some insight on that.
Yeah, definitely. So occasionally you'll come across people who have studied or they have an energy where they are connected to the Elohim angels. And that's a certain frequency that's more of a cosmic nature. And so even though we say Elohim angels, they're really more in the cosmic code of energy. Seraphim, same thing. These are like very high vibrational cosmic energies that have been around kind of beyond time, sort of, right? The reason that most people tend to work with archangels is because the archangels come onto this planet more specifically in a way to help humanity to evolve the rays of creation, the feeling tone of the different rays of creation. And so if somebody works with the angelic realm, they might specialize in the flame of peace, which is Archangel Uriel in the solar plexus, or Archangel Shamuel, the flame of divine love in the heart, Archangel Michael, that throat flame where they really stand up for people, Archangel Jovial, the flame of divine wisdom, Archangel Gabriel, about that purity, energy, Archangel Zadkiel, dealing with transformation. So these are your 7 primary archangels. And then you have the archangelic realm, and then you have all the angels that are in service to those archangels. So because there's like 144 rays of creation available to us, there would be like, let's say 144 archangels or Elohim or seraphim that help to bring these rays of creation in, so that there's sort of like a system or an order to it, right? So when you deal with your chakra system, you have an Elohim angel that brings in the ray of creation, a seraphim who directs the light, the color, the number frequency, the letter frequency. You have the ascended master that brings in the mastery, how to mentally think about it and learn how to command it. Then the archangels bring in the feeling tone, so that you can feel what peace, compassion, courage, grace, joy, hope. These are all archangelic frequencies that, as our humanity evolves, we can go into different frequencies like that. So you do have your archangels, which are kind of a big one for our humanity. Then you have these other branches of angels. You also, when we get to the nature kingdom, those angels would be called devas, but they're really more in the nature kingdom, whereas Elohim, seraphim, cherubim are in the cosmic. So when we say angelic realm, it's kind of mostly along the energies of the archangels. And then sometimes you also have some very ancient angels that have been on the planet for a very long time that would be also in that energy. I come across every once in a while. They might be ancient Aramaic angels, Hebrew angels, different things like that, not necessarily recognized in the archangelic realm, but they are still in the angels. They're just very ancient and old.
And I mean, you don't even really have to know them to call upon them either, right?
No, yeah. I mean, it's a big field of light. It's its own dimension. The angelic realm is its own dimension, sort of like the star beings. There's many different star systems out there. You don't have to know all of them. They're kind of infinite, or planetary systems. But if you sort of just get the genre of like, oh, I feel like I'm an angelic being because I'm highly sensitive to people's feelings. I can be a little bit codependent at times with people because I want them to feel good. I'm a caretaker. I can get overwhelmed easily by other people's emotions. There's a gentleness, like a peacefulness, not really wanting to fight. There's kind of a softness to it. So if you find that you fall into the angelic realm, you just say, I'm calling forth to my angels, my angelic tribe of light. You can even say, I'm calling forth to the sacred fire flame of the archangels, which means it's all the archangelic realm, or just the angels in general.
Perfect, because I just make up angels.
Yeah, parking lot angels, lottery angels, angels for the pet to feel better. Yeah, I mean, there are infinite number of angels. I mean, there's also like, let's say, to branch out a little bit, there's unknown angels, and they're an interesting group of angels that work with us because a lot of times we are afraid of the unknown. And so there's a whole group of unknown angels. And by working with them, what happens is you learn to have trust in the universe. Because you have no idea, I'm going to move or do this, that, or the other, right? Whatever's going to happen for you. And so when you call them the unknown angels, they help you to be more at peace with going into the unknown, being in the vulnerability, which is really how we manifest really well. If you want to manifest at a very high level, you can visualize what you want and even put a feeling tone into it, like, oh, I want to go do this, and this is how I want it to feel and how it looks. And then you have to, your part in the field of creation, the quantum field, is to be vulnerable. So when you open up vulnerability in your heart to what would normally scare you about change, a new job, a move, a new relationship, I'm going into it complete vulnerable. You're opening your heart, and the unknown angels can come in and bless you with the highest vibration in that field of possibilities, which is unknown.
I love that.
Isn't that cool? That's a good one.
Yeah.
Another group of angels that I've kind of learned about more recently is the essential angels. So let's say the archangels, a lot of people call them in, right, for different reasons and whatever. The essential angels are a little bit more feeling oriented. Like, for instance, if you're afraid, you might want to call in the angel of courage, the essential angel of courage, or compassion, or grief, or hopelessness, or, you know what I mean? It's like they help you with those qualities. Even if you think it's a negative quality, they come in and they help you with that grief, or to feel more hopeful, or the angel of faith. So I'm calling in, like I've started calling them into my personal sessions with people, because as emotions come up and we're going through stuff, which happens all throughout the day, right? For anybody, you call in the essential angels to please bless me or that person with the highest quality that serves them. So let's say, for instance, we were to look at the Ukraine, right? Just as a global issue right now, we could go ahead, because in human form, like, angels have a very respectful way of handling. They also have free will. So angels have free will, humans have free will, ascended masters have free will. And maybe not everything has free will, but angels actually do. So they want to help you because they want to help you, not because they have to. Right. So, but part of that respect of human free will and angelic free will, to be in, collaboration and, communication, is to work together and to please call them forth, to be respectful to them. Right. But because we're in human form, I can pray for you and ask angels to go bless you. Right. Because I'm in human form and you're in human form. And then your soul either allows it or it doesn't. So it's no big deal. I'm not going to override your free will, but I can for sure send a blessing your way. So let's say we take the situation of Ukraine right now, or any other global issue, war, natural disaster, whatever could be going on. It's just a plethora of choices these days. Right. And so let's just take that one, and we can just call in the essential angels to please go forth into the situation of, Ukraine or anything else that might be going on around the world, and to please bless all the family of humanity, or to bless that area or that region, all the Russians, all the Ukrainians, all the Polish, everybody who might be involved. I just like to bless everybody, you know what I mean? Not just one group, but everybody, as a compassionate witness. Mm-hmm. So then what happens is there'll be a flood of essential angels that go out with all these different feeling tones for whatever that group might need. So you can bless whole groups, you can bless individuals, you can bless your pets, plants, yourself.
And in your book, you talk about like the blessing ball, and I think it's so great to have that roadmap. There's several different meditations that you've offered us. I'm using this as our predominant text for all of our psychic development classes at Wise Skies, because it's got such great info all the way through. The blessing other people, blessing yourself. There's just so much that you've mapped out so well for us. Before we get away from angels completely, I really like the examples that you give of like modern day souls who, are related to the different tribes. And in the angelic tribe, you've got Fred Rogers, which was like so great, right? So great.
Which was Mr. Rogers, in case, Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, if people don't know.
Yeah. And Mother Teresa, of course, Reese Witherspoon you have in here. Drew Barrymore, there's Denzel Washington, I thought was an interesting one. But there's more than that. Those are the ones that just caught my eye.
The one that I always like a lot is Sarah Mclaughlin. And the reason I was at South by Southwest in Austin, the music festival that was there years ago. Mm-hmm. And she was one of the main stage performers. And so it was kind of had just sort of gotten dark. So it was just sort of kind of getting dark a little bit. And she comes on stage and she starts singing. And every once in a while, when I'm watching performers, I can see their energy, their tribe of light, their aura. So I like tuning into them on that level. Anyway, so I'm just kind of watching her, and all of a sudden my vision kind of shifted to more of an inner vision. And when she started singing, all these angels started flooding through her heart, flooding from her auric field, her heart, out into the audience and blessing them. Whoa. It was the most profound experience. I'll never forget how when somebody really holds that space with an angelic tribe so much, and they go to do some creative action, whether it's a nonprofit or a song or a painting, whatever it might be, an act of kindness, whatever, that these angels are always moving through us, even if you're just walking down the street. But when I saw that flood of angels coming out like beings of light, just comforting people and helping them with whatever they might have needed help with. And when you listen to our music, you can tell it brings you into your heart. It brings you into emotions and feelings oftentimes.
What's the guy from Shawshank Redemption that keeps bees?
Tim Robbins?
No.
Shawshank, Morgan Freeman?
Yeah, I would think that he might fall in that realm too.
Yeah. He has a lot of that energy. Yeah. Like Denzel Washington does come across with a lot of angelic energy, probably even a little bit more of the Archangel Michael energy, a little bit more of an edge of like aggression, but there is so much care, so much concern for others, really wanting to be helpful, not wanting to harm, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Yeah. But Morgan Freeman, that's another really good one. They just have a genuine sense of care for humanity. Genuine sense that you couldn't talk them into doing something wrong.
Right.
Very, very difficult. They just have an ethic to them of like, no, that would kind of hurt somebody's feelings. So I can't do that, you know?
Right.
Because their heart, they live so much from their heart. Their ethics are really in their morals. They got a good moral compass around that. I mean, their biggest downfall is they get overwhelmed because they empath other people's emotions so much. And I think for angelic people, if they can just remember, you don't want to shut down your empathy, but you also, sometimes when we feel guilty, obligated, bad, overcare, we're doing it because we might be judging that other person's feelings and we're attaching our feelings to their feelings, right? And the process would be judging them for how they're handling their life. So it might seem like we feel guilty or that we feel sorry or pity for them. But if you take pity and you look a little bit behind it, you might actually be judging the person. So it's not unconditional, it's conditional. So angels are actually gifted at unconditional love. If they can remember whatever somebody has going on, instead of feeling so bad for them, pity, badness, whatever, or seeing somebody as a victim, you just bless the person. So angels are great at blessing others, instead of absorbing and trying to process other people's emotions through their own body, which is where they get overwhelmed and then they turn themselves into a victim in situations oftentimes.
That's really good advice.
Especially for people who may not have the best intentions, because you have to remember sometimes when you have the kind of the narcissist type relationship with people, like people who just aren't connected to their own energy, they will almost seek people who are angelic, who are very genuinely caring and giving, because that person then starts giving this person life force, starts giving their power away, their energy away. And for somebody who's not in connection, which sometimes would be referred to as narcissism, it becomes a very bad relationship connection. But those two, because they're polar, they actually connect. When they're not in harmony with themselves, they attract one another, and it becomes somewhat, I'd say, emotionally abusive at the very least.
Yeah. Right.
On that topic of happiness, let's move on to something else.
Yeah, right.
So
no, I think it's important to talk about, because that's what, you know, there's a lot of,
well, they're most susceptible. Angelic people can be most susceptible and gullible to other people because they think so highly of the other people that they couldn't imagine doing harm. So they don't really think that other people would be doing harm. Surely they must be telling the truth. And oftentimes people aren't. So you have to be really in touch with, you know, for angelic people, one thing that helps when you're dealing with other people and relationships with people is how do I feel in my body? Sometimes you have to drop out of the emotional tone for an angel and get into your physical body, because angelic people are so emotional and feeling. They're all feeling and emotions. If you can breathe down into the, you know, the solar plug, I mean, down into the belly button area, how do I feel? And you can start trusting your body's wisdom. You'll know that you're being lied to. You'll know you're being taken for a ride or manipulated. But oftentimes angelic people, because they don't like conflict and they want to get people to do that, they override their own feelings. So start trusting your feelings, and which is a part of your intuition, but also trust your body, because the body doesn't lie. That's a big one.
Yes, I totally agree. Not that it's not an agreeable thing. I hear what you're saying. Okay, let's shift into the Ascended Masters. The Ascended Masters are one of the tribes of light, and you're telling us here that their origin is found in the cosmic, galactic, planetary, star, or angelic tribe. So they're one of those that kind of cross into different realms. You guys, some of you guys that do my monthly tarot, sometimes I'll use the Ascended Master deck. And so maybe you've heard some of their names before. But these beings, will you tell us a little bit about the consciousness of these beings?
Yeah. So ascended masters are essentially other souls who have walked the physical plane, the physical earth, but they were able to really go into the ascension flame and raise their vibration to a point where they no longer were bound in the wheel of karma, having to come in and learn through action reaction. They were able to have illumination in their own self-awareness, self-consciousness, and that is really kind of what gives them the edge to kind of move beyond, is the self-awareness in a sense. The more self-aware you are, the more loving you are, usually the more service you become to humanity, etc. So a lot of souls, there may be a lot of souls who have reached that ascension level of self-awareness and consciousness that don't necessarily want to become an ascended master. They just might go straight up into that source energy and go off into other universes, other learning schools and whatever. And that's perfectly fine. What makes an ascended master is somebody who goes into that ascension and that higher self-awareness illumination. But this dimension, which is only one dimension higher than us, actually chooses us to maintain service to humanity. So they are committed to hold the flames of creation or whatever creative flame they can, like Saint Germain holds the creative flame for transmutation, transformation, the flame of freedom, and that's the violet transmuting flame. So he's committed to that, right? So in many of his lifetimes, he may have learned about that, used it, and holds so much mastery that he wants to now hold that for humanity and to be literally a master teacher. So all of your ascended masters, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, Kuan Yin, Buddha, Jesus, Saint Germain, Lord Lanto, again, consider it like 144,000, because there's 144,000 rays. The ones in our seven chakras, the ones we might know the most, but they come from different time periods, different dimensions. So for instance, Saint Germain was also, he had many different lifetimes. Sir Francis Bacon, who I think had something to do here with our country being developed and whatever. He was also known as the Wonder Man of Europe. He has an etheric retreat in Transylvania, but he also has an etheric retreat here in Mount Shasta. So a lot of times your ascended masters and some of your archangels hold etheric retreats, which is it's a temple of light held more in one dimension above us. So it's not too difficult to soul travel or to feel the presence of. Like, for instance, if you go out to the Grand Tetons in Wyoming, which is a really big etheric retreat on the planet, and it deals with Lord Lantos and the Flame of Divine Wisdom. It's where all the sacred libraries around the world have been gathered into one domain under this etheric retreat. The one in Cusco, down in the Fiji Islands, Lord Cusco governs that one. It's kind of under the ocean. And that one deals with the science, the tectonic plates, the volcanoes. And so it specializes in science. But when you get usually about 100 miles out, you will normally start to feel the effect on whichever chakra they're dealing with. So when you go into the Tetons, because I've taught vision quests in these different places, you start feeling your crown chakra opening up, even driving into it or flying into it, right? And then the closer you get, so then when you get to these locations, you will feel somewhat in an altered state, because you're in the peripheral of this very high energetic resonance of light that these ascended masters hold on the planet. And then they're sort of all connected in their own way, like around the planet, and they're all in communication. So let's say we go into prayer, like a morphogenetic prayer field, like we do a vision quest, which I recently got done with, or we just do a global meditation, like with Unify or something. These ascended masters will take all the energy we're gathering, and they will help to amplify it, particularly if there's cosmic rays, galactic rays, star transmissions, codes coming in. They'll a lot of times come in through these etheric retreats and then be sent out and amplified to people. And anybody who's meditating, intuitional, sensitive, emotionally, whatever, they will be amplified, and these ascended masters send that vibration out. So you can work with them as master teachers in your life, which is also really good to do because they've already mastered a lot. But the ascended masters are a derivative of coming from one of the other five, as are the nature kingdom. So the ascended masters, like let's say we take Mother Mary. So she is considered more of an angelic. She's considered queen of the angels, queen of the archangels, actually. So in her core tribe of light, it may be more angelic, even though she's still considered an ascended master. Jesus is more of a cosmic avatar. Babaji, kind of a living master, but he's a cosmic avatar. So yeah, there's just different ones that might fit into those other ones.
And in your examples of the modern day souls who are related to the Ascended Master tribe, you've got Padre Pio, Carolyn Meese, Lao Tzu, Edgar Cayce, Paulo Coelho, Ram Dass, Joel Osteen, Gary Zukov, every author that you have on your shelf, because I know you guys, Wayne Dyer, Byron Katie, and Dr. Joe Dispenza. So really, I mean, like I said, that's like every author on my bookshelf.
So you're very akin, and more than likely
Yeah.
you have worked with ascended masters in different time zones, because sometimes they will cross over into physical form to be seen. Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East is a really great book series.
Okay.
Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. It's a series of 6 books, and it tells a story of a man, Madame Blavatsky, she was under the influence of the Ascended Masters. Alice Bailey was under the influence. Guy Ballard, who is the kind of mostly the channel author for all the I Am Discourse books, the green books.
Mm-hmm.
Bertie Spalding is the Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East book. But these are people who kind of come under the influence of Ascended Masters in their teachings. Like right now, I work mostly with Mary Magdalene. More recently when I do the quest, and she's the one who overlights that. And so when I go into meditate in the mornings, or I'm journaling, or I have a dream, or I'm seeking truth of some nature, I'll call in my I Am Presence, my Great Central Sun Angels, which is my tribe of light, and Mary Magdalene. And one of those 3 will talk back to me when I'm doing the automatic journaling, which is a great way to work with angels and specifically ascended masters, any of your tribes of light. But yeah.
Did you do one this morning?
No, I was doing dreams.
Oh no.
But I did it. Yeah, I was doing it a couple of days ago. And yeah, right after the quest, I thought I had this amazing dream where I got a little bit of a fear of elevators.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get into them and I just sort of turn my back on the door, and that kind of helps. And maybe I close my eyes. Well, in the dream, I get into the elevator. I'm not super happy about it. And I feel like I'm going to this doctor's office person that I recently had to see. And I'm like, and there's this, and this is what's so cool about the dream. A woman and a man get into the elevator, but they were both ascended masters. And I had been teaching the quest. So it's like that feeling tone is there. So these 2 ascended masters, a male and a female, get in, stand on either side of me. And so I feel more comfortable in the elevator. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I'm not as afraid as I think I would be. And I open my eyes and I see the 2nd floor. And then all of a sudden, because I decide I'm not afraid anymore, the elevator shoots up like Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory, like at the very end when he goes up off the ceiling of the chocolate factory, and it shoots all the way up out the roof. And I'm looking down on the village of everybody and stuff. And all this golden light comes in. I'm like, yes, that's a good dream. Better than some of the others I had during the quest, dealing with the essential flame. Yeah. So, but they will overlap into dreams. And if an ascended master comes into your dream, there's a special resonance where you usually feel like you're lucid dreaming, but it's a little bit more tangible. There's a feeling tone, especially when you look in their eyes. Mm-hmm. There's like a feeling tone that feels very different than your normal processing dream stuff or other beings that might come in. It's solid. It's grounded. It's very different when they come into a dream.
Now that because I took your quest, I took this last equinox quest, and I did have a dream. Now that we're talking about it,
yeah, a lot of people did.
It was not a dream. It wasn't like
it's lucid dreaming.
Yes, and
it's real on a different dimension.
Yes, and I woke up knowing that the consciousness had taught me things. It wasn't a dream. And I was tired, but I could hear everything consciously. I could hear a big great horned owl like in real time in my yard, but I was asleep, but I was awake. But anyways, that that was a new experience for me. Right.
Yeah. Hey, there's one other book I want to show you that's
Oh,
a really good one for the Ascended Masters.
Okay.
This one is Masters, the
Ooh.
Masters and their retreats.
Okay, let me write that one down.
Yeah, it's really, really good. The Masters and their retreats. And so this is a good one because it's a great introduction to people being able to read a little bit about the Ascended Masters, and it gives you the etheric retreat of where they're normally located around the
Cool.
world. So
Yeah.
you've got like your top 50 retreats. I do feel like there's probably more, but these are the top 50 retreats. And it does include some of the archangels, you know what I mean, as well. Like Archangel Michael is Banff, Canada. I've taught a retreat up there, and it's just gorgeous. Yeah.
Are
They're
there any
usually pretty beautiful places.
are there any in Texas?
There are not any etheric retreats in Texas, but sometimes Ascended Masters will also work through powerful ley lines. Like Sedona, Arizona has 4 major vortexes there, maybe even 5, but 4 major vortexes there. Those vortexes can be used for interdimensional doorways, and that is usually star being related. So Sedona deals a little bit more with star being consciousness. If you're really into your star beings, Sedona will expand that, right? But if you're into Ascended Masters, you might want to go to their etheric retreats. But the ley lines, the chakras, these etheric retreats, they usually pick PowerPoints, and it's usually within a mountain chain like the Himalayas, like Lord Maitreya, Dwaj Khul, the Tibetan. So it's usually within mountain chains. The Gobi Desert has one. Shambhala would be a real place, but it used to be when it was more of an ocean, like a sea. It wasn't actually always desert. But that one is Shambhala. That's the etheric retreat for Shambhala, and deals with Lord Kumar and stuff like that. And then some are under the ocean, like the Cusco's one. Yeah. So they can be different places in nature. I wonder what's in the Bermuda Triangle, though. That's really what we need to be having some conversations about. Like, what kind of black hole is that out there?
Right.
Now, there is really dark doorways too. Like in the Middle East, there's actually some major doorways that are there, but they, for some reason, tend to attract in different beings, entities that have kind of a darker nature to them. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of war that goes on out there for some reason because of that. So different doorways, different things.
That's your next book.
Yeah, right. The Bermuda Triangle and the dark forces of dark portals. We'll take that journey on the next quest to see how we end up, see what kind of dreams we have then.
Right. Okay, well, let's talk about the nature kingdom. This is you're telling us that it's sustained from the 2 different beings, the angelic tribe of light called the Devas, and then the star tribe of light called the elementals. So the nature kingdom is in the astral realm, right? It's intended to be in service to the family of humanity as well. And tell us a little bit more about oh wait, did I do no, I did. Okay. Yeah. So tell us more about the nature kingdom.
Yeah. So again, the 7 different tribes of light, the first 5 that we covered, cosmic, galactic, planetary, star, angel, are kind of your true, more dimensional beings, right? The reason we do include the Ascended Masters in the nature kingdom is because they are their own dimensional realm. So in a way, like we're walking through this world, sort of worlds within worlds. So the Ascended Masters are just really 1 octave away from us. You see what I mean? And so they're easy to communicate with in a lot of ways. You go to the pyramids, you go to the Mayan temples, these are places they've kind of worked before. The angels also sit very close to us dimensionally on that level. And in the nature kingdom, we literally walk through within the day, tree spirits, fairies, gnomes, that kind of thing. And the plants and animals will oftentimes be seen perhaps a little bit more in a Davic energy. So particularly plants, those are angels. So they're like nature angels. And a Deva can be a nature angel of a whole organization or a mountain or a whole field of land. You can have an overlighting Deva of your home, that kind of thing. So the Devas really kind of work on that level. The elementals come more from the star being energy. And the elementals are like earth, air, fire, well, not earth, but like air, fire, water, your different elements that kind of make up the earth. And so that can get into, like, let's say the fire beings might be the salamanders. That's one of their names. I don't mean the
actual lizard.
Yeah. Again, but salamanders, or The water beings are sometimes called the sprites. You got the air ones. So a lot of times, like if you're out in nature, you can actually communicate with nature, like storms that are coming in, because a tornado, a hurricane, a volcano, it has its own consciousness to it. So you can actually communicate. Oftentimes when I lived in South Texas, I don't really like the hurricanes. And so I would really talk to them and really communicate, hey, could you just go to this place where there's not as many people, just away from me, actually. But there's less people is great, but just away from me. But I have a lot of luck. You know, you can, I think that's how the Native Americans communicate when they're wanting rain to come in. They're communicating to the elemental kingdom, whether they call it that or not. You see what I mean? And then they will respond. I find a lot of times when I travel, I put myself into a map coning, which comes from Michelle Small Wright's work out of Perelandra. And she has a book called MAP, Medical Assistance Program. And she is highly attuned to the nature kingdom. And so she wrote this whole book about how to, you know, put yourself in a map coning medical assistance program where you call in the deva of healing, the overlighting deva of healing, the energy of Pan, the avatar synthesis, which, you know, and what it does, it creates a cone of light going into the earth with Pan and the overlighting deva, which is that angelic healing energy, and then a vortex above you for the ascended masters and your own higher self. So you got these two vortexes, and they kind of meet around your solar plexus. And what they do is it clears your aura, it clears your chakras, it brings you into harmony with the earth. So if I'm going to be out in nature, going for a hike, a walk, if I'm traveling, if I'm flying, I always put myself and whoever's with me in a map coning. And what I find is that I usually, when I'm traveling, I never really usually hit storms. A storm will blow through, I drive through, and then another storm will come in after me. So it puts you in harmony with the nature kingdom. And when it comes like, and then out of, I think it's Scotland, the other significant book of people who are into the nature kingdom is the Finnhorn Garden. And it was created by three intuitives, I don't know, in the 60s or something. And they were all very attuned to the nature kingdom. And they sort of were psychics, intuitives, kind of moved out of town to this plot of land that was just nothing, on like a cliff somewhere, I don't know, in England, Scotland, whatever. And what they did was they started praying to all the nature beings, and they started growing cabbages, like ground that you couldn't grow anything in. They started listening to the land and putting things in right places. And so when you have land and you start communicating with the overlighting deva and the elementals of that land, they will tell you where to plant a tree, how to trim a tree, where you should plant your rose garden, what kind of herbs will grow best next to each other. So they do communicate with you because it's its own level of consciousness. And then within that sort of Davic kingdom, in a sense, you've got like your fairies and your gnomes and things like that. I remember taking an herbal workshop with Susan Weed up in the Catskills of New York. And we were out there one day and there was all these gnomes, and I've only had a few of these experiences where I've seen stuff, but there was literally like off of this mesa, it was pitch black at night, but down in this valley, which should be even darker, it would light up at night. And it's all the gnomes working on the forest floor. Or one of the ladies I was with, she was walking up the trail late at night, and there was a little gnome holding a little light thing, you know. But anyway, the Finnhorn Garden, she gets into whole books. Gosh, I can't remember her name right now. She's very, very famous. So Eileen Caddy, Caddy, I think. And she wrote a book on all different types of fairies, pixies, fairies, gnomes, what they look like, how to interact with them, which ones are friendly, which ones aren't. So they're out there, you know what I mean? Modern
You
world.
went to Iceland several years ago, and I was
Oh my God.
I was expecting you to have like
Yes. Iceland is one of the few rare places on the earth where humans and the nature kingdom, particularly the elves and the fairies, still cooperate with one another. Like, I think it's even still in Iceland law that you cannot build certain roads in certain places because it will upset the fairies. And when I did go through Iceland, there was these beautiful waterfalls. And, you know, I noticed that in the waterfall, there was these beautiful, like like queen of the waterfall beings that were in there, and they had other little beings around. Or sometimes you'd see a rock in a field, but if you open your third eye and you adjust, it's a being, it's a rock being that's kind of his own rock self. And then one of the people I was with actually came across, sometimes they will cross into human territory. It's not often, but sometimes they will. But in Iceland, they do it a lot more because it's more acceptable there. And she was out at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and she came across this kind of smaller guy, and kind of a little bit fairy looking in his stuff. And she's like, "Hey, can I get a lighter?" And she'd been drinking or whatever. Not that that affects her sight, right? But he's like, and he looked into her eyes, and she's like, she has never seen eyes like this before. That this person, she felt like she had to look away. And she's very intuitive and very into fairy realm, right? She's English and just really into it. And she's like, I felt like if I had kept looking in his eyes, they were almost like vortexes. I felt like I would have followed him anywhere. And so he said, "Hey, do you just want to go have some fun somewhere?" And she's declined only because she didn't know she would ever come back again. You know what I mean? So fairies are known to be somewhat mischievous at times, but not that I think they really necessarily mean us harm, but they can be a bit mischievous. So I don't know. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of cool experiences. Bee wise, I had a beehive once when I was in Atlanta, and I was sitting out there with the bees. And this beautiful being off to the edge of my peripheral vision showed up, and she looked like she had like a beehive, almost like as a body, golden, just beautiful illumination, and just like this perfect sense of balance in her mental body, and just kind of governing and watching over the beehive. But I mean, so if you just open your third eye just a little bit, you will hug a tree, come across a fairy spirit, love your crystals and your rocks. They all have consciousness, as well as your pets. Pets would fit into that category as well.
The modern day souls that relate to the Nature Kingdom tribe of light are Greta Thunberg, Steve Irwin, of course, David Attenborough, Jane Goodall, of course, Bear Grylls,
Gorilla Lady.
Deb Haaland, I don't know her. Deb Haaland, she's the Native American, a Native American woman in the House of Representatives. Autumn, is it Peltier? Yeah. And another Hawaiian activist, and also Chief Phil Lane.
Yeah, a lot of these are very in touch with the nature kingdom. You know what I mean? Like they just innately stand for nature. Like that is their passion. You can run them over with a bulldozer, but by God, you're not going to take that tree down if they're still alive. You're not going to hurt that animal if they're still alive. And that's just their dedication. So, a lot of people work in Greenpeace or have earth organizations. Yeah. A lot of your indigenous are just pretty much totally in connection.
Yeah. I could just read this. I mean, guys, we're interviewing Adrienne because this book just came out. It's The Tribes of Light, and we've got 7 different tribes of light, of consciousness. That's your family of light. And one of the big takeaways of the book really is that you're never alone. You're connected at a deep level to one of these tribes or many of these tribes over many lifetimes. And I just wanted to finish up, I guess, talking about the tribes of light with you. Is there anything else that you want to mention in the book that we haven't covered? Anything that you want to point out or talk about?
Gosh, we've covered a lot, I think. I'm not really sure. I think that the biggest thing is that they are really our best friends. And so you can cross over, you can connect. Like if you just have a fascination for planetary beings or galactic beings, or you can cross over and ask them to come in and start working with you, even if it's not your tribe. You don't have to stay in your lane necessarily. You might feel more comfortable in your lane, but you can definitely learn from all the different tribes of light. And they are an amazing, phenomenal resource in support primarily of our soul blueprint. Like they know who we are, they know what our skills and talents are. And when you start connecting with your tribe of light, you start learning things about yourself. It's like a mirror of reflection. So if you knew you were a galactic being and you started calling into your galactic council of light, I think you would drop some of your judgments on yourself. You'd start having more self-appreciation. You would be with a group of beings that love you for who you are, that have the same qualities. And there's something very healing and familiar and positive about that I think is really helpful to our own self-esteem and self-awareness of some of the soul gifts that we have that are derivatives from our tribe of light that you don't find in the rest of the world. Like you're not going to learn it in school, you're not going to learn it in religion, you're not going to learn it in a lot of places. But when you connect to your tribe of light, there's this spiritual reflection that comes back that you are one with your family of light, and they help you to develop your higher soul qualities and spiritual qualities that other people may not recognize in you, feel threatened by, or just not know how to help you. So they help you to hone your spiritual gifts, which then you use for your higher purpose on the planet.
And sometimes, you know, I think there's one part that we didn't talk about in the beginning, which is you were talking about your spiritual gifts, and it made me think about this. You know, everybody's gifted. We all have our senses, and our senses expand out into the spiritual world. So some of us are psychic or clairvoyant because we can see differently with our third eye. Some of us are have the gift of clairsentience, you know, clairgustance, clairaudience, being able to hear things. And you do talk about that some here too. And so really comprehensive way to understand your spiritual self, understanding your light body, and understanding where you fit in or plug into and play with really the tribes of light in your own conscious evolution. So thank you so much for being here with us. Before we go, I want to make sure everybody can find you. They can go to mywildmagic.com. And I recently was writing your initials, the MWM, and I like, there's so many like mountainous things to play with those shapes of those letters.
Yeah.
You know, so My Wild Magic, Adrienne, do you want to talk a little bit about your sessions and your membership and your meditation program?
Yeah. Hearts on Fire is it's a $39 a month meditation program. It's every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. They're always recorded. There's an entire 2 or 3 years library of meditations that we do. And the cool thing about the meditations is they're always geared around the ascended masters, the archangels, the Elohims, and the tribes of light. So every week, every month, we open up energy where a particular ascended master, archangel, and kind of tribe of light are going to be working with us, downloading energy. And so it's like being held in a 24/7 quantum prayer field. So even if we're not on the Wednesday call or you miss the Wednesday call, your higher self will be held in that energy. But they're kind of blessing us and working with us in our dream time, meditation time all throughout the month. So it's a really nice way of amplifying your spiritual sort of mastery and spiritual intelligence in a sense, and getting to work with the beings that are volunteering to work with us. And they just come in that month, and then you'll literally have experiences that play out that month based on the energy that we're evolving and healing. So part of it's based on our evolution, evolving us as human beings on the planet. And a lot of times what goes with that is clearing out things that no longer serve us as well. So it's like getting a clearing and a evolutionary inspiration and working with really cool beings. And you start to hone into your intuition to start to pay attention to these things that maybe you know, but just didn't pay attention to before. And it's a really great group of energy that's well qualified.
Yes, and it's part of my spiritual practice, guys. I'll because it's later in my time zone, I'll either be doing like a bath, like a salt bath, or just resting or sitting in the sauna or something. But I zone out, so I almost don't even know what's going on because I'm in such
the best, yeah,
meditation when you're talking. It's beautiful, right? And then I can go right to sleep with peace, and I sleep deeply. And so that's the meditation program. And how else can people work with you?
Oh, yeah. I can do personal one-on-one sessions with people. You can book that online. Intuitional sessions that help you either develop your soul blueprint, or you've got specific things going on. We can tune into that. I always like listening to a person's soul first, because I feel like the soul really has the lowdown on what's really going on. And then we can branch off into anything else you want to talk about. But I do like working more directly with the soul itself and your own I am presence to help govern and clear energy so that you can move forward more gracefully in your life. Yeah, I do Reiki initiations as well as Vision Quest as well.
Yeah, the Vision Quest. There was a time when, so I'm a client of Adrienne's, right? But there's a time when I asked you, I don't know if you remember this, I just was like, she's got to have some kind of like cosmic machine, because every session we have, I'm like, how, it's how do you know that, you know? And it when you're talking through a session, it's so exactly what my soul's highest you know, guide is wanting to go forward with. So it's just very empowered and infused with all of the tribes of light that you work with. So thank you so much for being here, guys. Adrienne is our featured teacher. Depending on when you're catching this show or this episode, she's our featured teacher in the Wise Skies Collective membership. And so she has sent us 2 modules of training that are active in your membership portal. Our membership's $22 a month. You can cancel anytime. I always like to tell people to join at the end of the month so that you can get, you know, kind of 2 months in there. You can get the end of the March and the 1st of April.
How clever of you.
I know. But I, you know, thank you so much for the time that you've given us and the wisdom that you've shared through your life experience. This is such a great book, and I really am so honored to have helped with it, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. And until next time, guys, thanks for being here, and
Thank
namaste.
you so much. Yeah. Many blessings and love.